The reason you aren't confident speaking English is because of two things. It's probably because you have an accent and you know the grammar isn't 100% perfect. But with having an accent, it's not a bad thing because you only have an accent because you know another language, which means you're trying to learn English for a good reason. And whenever you get worried about having an accent, oh, it's going to make me sound dumb or stupid or unintelligent, or I'm going to be embarrassed when I speak, you have to remember that you're learning English for a good reason. Maybe you're learning English, you can come to an English-speaking country and get a job so you can provide for your family. Maybe you're coming over so you can take care of relatives' kids. So every time you think you're going to sound awkward or stupid because you have an accent, you have to remember that A, you have an accent because you're smart enough to know another language, and B, that having an accent, it doesn't matter because you're learning English for good reason. And the second thing is why people aren't confident speaking English is because their grammar isn't going to be perfect. But you have to remember that nobody has ever had perfect grammar when they first started English, not even native speakers. And so having bad grammar at the start is natural and it's completely fine. And actually, the worse your grammar is right now, the better you're going to feel when you improve and you can start speaking like a native speaker. So you have to remember, the worse your grammar is now, the better you're going to feel in the future. So now that you know that having an accent isn't a bad thing and that having bad grammar is natural, the way you can start to get confident speaking English is by speaking to other people who have an accent and have bad grammar. Because when you're around people who are also learning English, you start to realize that having an accent isn't a bad thing and that not having good grammar at the start is also completely natural. So the way that you can find other people who are learning English is you can find online communities filled with people who are learning English for the first time. And so the way you can do that is you can just search for them online, and you can go and type a message saying, "Hi, I'm learning English for the first time. If anyone else is doing the same, I'd love to be able to speak to you." Because this helps both of you. So you both get better at learning English and you both stop feeling so self-conscious and embarrassed by your accent or your bad grammar. And so I'll leave a message in the description. You can just copy and paste so you can meet other people who are learning English. And just the point is, you have to remember that having an accent isn't a bad thing and that having bad grammar isn't a bad thing. That the only way you can get rid of both of those, the only way you can get rid of having bad grammar is by actively going out and speaking. And that's why it's so good when you're speaking to people who also have those things, because you realize that when everyone has an accent, it doesn't bother you as much. And when everyone has bad grammar and you can correct each other, then you realize that it's not so bad because you get to learn when you correct other people and other people get to learn when you correct them. So it's a cycle because everyone gets to improve. And so like I said, you can find online groups and communities where people are learning English. And you can go there and just speak to people. You can message people, just be kind, be polite, and then ask if they want to message you every day so you can both improve your English. Then again, I'll leave a message so you can copy and paste in the description. So when you go to these groups, you don't have to be worried about what to say. You can just type it, and then hopefully people reply to you. And when they do reply to you, that's when you can start having conversations. And you just have to remember that your accent isn't a bad thing and that your bad grammar isn't a bad thing. Bad grammar, it's completely natural. I just want you to remember, you're fine. You're fine. Having bad grammar, it's not the end of the world. It's a good starting point. Because when you're bad at something in the beginning, you feel so much better about it when you get good. If your grammar was perfect right now, then there'd be no point watching this video. Then you'd already have achieved your goal. But having bad grammar, you have to realize that every time you get corrected or you learn a new word or you learn a new grammar skill, you get closer to your goal. So you shouldn't be worried or embarrassed or anxious because you're going to get better eventually. And when you do get better, that's when you feel so much better about everything you've done. Because you're not meant to be perfect now. If you're perfect now, then there'd be no point. The fun or the reward of learning English is getting better at the language. If you could just instantly know all the words, then if you instantly knew all the words and grammar conventions, it'd be nice, but you wouldn't feel rewarded. So you have to remember that having an accent and having bad grammar aren't bad things. So when you're speaking to other people who are learning, you try your best to correct them and do it politely, don't be rude about it, but ask them to correct you as well. Because when you're surrounded by people who are learning all the time, you start to get better as well. So I've said it a lot of times now, but I'll put a message in the description so you can copy and paste, so you can speak to other speakers, you can speak to other people who are learning how to be native speakers. And I have a community for this as well, and I put it in the description, so you can connect with other native speakers and get better. And final thing, your accent isn't a bad thing, it just shows that you have another language, that you know another language. So having an accent is a good thing because you know another language. And you have to remember that every time you feel sad or embarrassed or you're scared to speak, You have to remember, like, the reason you're learning English. If you're learning English, you can come and get a job and provide for your family, or you can come to another country, go to an English-speaking country to take care of someone's kids or whatever you want to do. Just always remember your goal, and remember that having bad grammar isn't an issue and having an accent isn't an issue. So what you want to do is you want to go and speak to people who are learning English. Just be around them, message them every day, see if you can speak to them over the phone and just try your best to interact with people who are also learning English, because that's when you won't feel bad about it. You realize that as your accent slowly goes away and as your grammar gets better, you realize that this is the enjoyable part of learning. So like I said, I'll leave a message in the description. You can copy and paste. You can speak to other people who are learning English, and I'll link my community in the description where you can meet up with other people who are also learning English.